Hey everyone, today we are attempting something insane. We aren't just building a simple app, we are simulating being one of the busiest routes in the world. We are talking about handling 1 million requests per second. To give you context, this is the scales of giants like Uber, Netflix, and parts of Apple. Most people think that the database is always the bottleneck, but at this scale, everything breaks. A simple mistake here doesn't mean just a bug, it means losing tens of thousands of dollars in minutes. Let's see if we can survive. We started simple with Node.js using a standard framework like Express. We hit a ceiling pretty fast, only about 20,000 requests per second. That is nowhere near 1 million. The framework overhead was killing us, so we switched to Fastify and our own custom framework CPeak, which stripped away the bloat. Immediately we jumped to over 70,000 on a single machine, but one machine wasn't enough. We needed more power. To hit 1 million, the author launched a beast of a machine on AWS, which exactly is CATI 30x large. Yeah, you make something out of it. We are talking about 128 CPU cores and 250 gigs of RAM, costing about $6 an hour. It's basically running like 10 Mac studios at once. We also launched a dedicated power tester machine just to generate enough traffic to crush it. With the setup from a simple hello world JSON response, we actually hit 6 million requests per second. But that was too easy. Real apps have data. That's where the nightmare began. When we tried sending large data packets simulating a real API response, our request per second plummeted. We went from millions to just 100,000. Why? We didn't run out of CPU, we ran out of internet. We were moving 6 gigabytes of data per second, maxing out the server's 50 gigabytes network card, 50 Gbps network card. We hit an invisible wall. To go faster, we'd need supercomputers costing $30,000 a month, which is just burning money. Next, we tried writing a database. The author provisioned a massive Postgres instance with 64 cores. But even with this beast, we could only handle about 35,000 requests per second. It was pathetic. We tried throwing money at it, upgrading storage speed, spending thousands more per month, and only got up to 66,000 RPS. We realized that trying to scale a traditional SQL database to 1 million RPS would cost millions of dollars a year. We needed a smarter approach. The solution: stop writing the disk. RAM is thousands times faster. We switch to Redis, an in memory store. The strategy is simple: write everything to Redis first, then sync it to the database later in the background. This is how companies like Uber handle massive location data. Suddenly, a single Redis instance got us to 100,000 writes per second. Better, but still not 1 million. A single Redis node is single threaded, so it has a hard limit to break it used to break it. We use Redis clustering. We spun up 30 Redis nodes on our server. Now instead of one process choking on traffic, the requests were distributed across 128 CPU cores. The result? We finally hit 1 million database writes per second. We are filling up the RAM so fast, we generated 60 million records in minutes. We conquered the database, but we had one final boss: the patch request. This simulated real world business logic, checking inputs, generating data, and doing maths. When we ran this on Node.js, even on a beast server with 192 cores, we couldn't hit a million. Node.js is great, but for heavy computation at this scale, the overhead was just too high. We were stuck. It was it was to bring out the heavy artillery. The author rewrote the application in C++ using Drogon, one of the fastest web framework in the world. We also swapped the JSON parser for rapid JSON because the default one was too slow. The difference was night and day. Where Node struggled to utilize the hardware, C++ was efficient and ruthless. With C++, we didn't just hit the target, we destroyed it. We sustained a million requests per second with complex logic, and the CPU was still 30% idle. We were moving data at speeds that are hard to comprehend. Over 2 terabytes of data. Over 2 terabytes of data processed in single minute. That is faster than copying an entire hard drive every 60 seconds. To prove this wasn't a fluke, the author launched 60 separate computers just to attack over single C++ server. For 30 minutes straight, we bombarded it. In that half hour, we handled 2 billion requests and moved 60 terabytes of data. Total timeouts? Only 40. The system was nearly flawless. We proved that handling a million requests per second is possible, but it requires moving beyond basic web frameworks and thinking like an engineer. We had to solve network limits, ditch the hard drive for RAM, and eventually switch languages entirely. This experiment cost Cododev about $2,000 in cloud bills just to film. But seeing that a million RPS counter was worth every penny. Thanks for watching, and you can see the actual video in the description. And see you in the next engineering nightmare.